Personally, I think Pinoys are very visual. They like looking at pictures. They want to see what happens as the story progresses. So I think that's what comics do to those who really don't want to read just words. They want to see the pictures. Pinoys love that.
It's like asking why teledramas are so famous in the Philippines. Everybody needs an escape to go to a fantasy they would like to live in. They would like to fly. They would like to have superpowers. And comics provides that as a means for people to live their fantasies.
Bawat bata, di ba? Parang every time we see X-Men, we see Superman, like, pwede kaya tayong mag-drawing ng ganun. We have our own creativity. We are a superhero of our own. So every time we see a comic book character in the comic book, we can also want to draw something like them because we have our own imagination and fantasy.
Pilipino kasi passionate sila sa work nila. Hindi sila papasok dun sa trabaho, sa title, dahil lang, I can do it, I can do better. We are parang entertainers tayo. Hindi tayo yung basta lang work. Hindi tayo ganun. Kung meron tayong maibibigay na extra, magbibigay tayo na extra.
I think isa yun sa mga lamang natin sa ibang bansa, ibang artists. That's why madalas mas madaming Pinoy na nakaka-break in sa international industries. Because we love our work.
So it just blew me away that there were actually Pinoys doing comic books abroad, or for that matter, that Pinoys were drawing my favorite comic book heroes.
And it's just amazing the influence that the Filipino comics artists have had on the comics going back that far. People don't realize it. A lot of times it's just names in comic books and you never know where they live.
Pangarap kasi siya talaga. If you're going to draw comics, masaya ka na ma-publish yung work mo. I was very happy na na-publish ang work ko sa Philippines. Pero kakaiba if your work gets published abroad, kung saan the comics was something you were a fan of nung bata ka. Kaya nung I was able to work on something like Wolverine and X-Men, ngayon Spider-Man, I was a huge fan of those titles nung bata ako Talagang kinokolekta ko siya And for me, now, working on those titles, parang it's a dream come true for me.
Gulat din ako. Para bang, iba rin yung pakiramdam. Para bang, ano ba to? Panaginip lang ba to or what? Kasi syempre, hindi ko rin naman akalaing na pwede pala yun. I mean, nasa Pilipinas ka Tapos Marvel, nasa ibang bansa. Parang hindi mo maiisip na pwede palang drawing ako for them. Tapos makikita ko sa mga bookstore yung gawa ko. Diba? Parang sarap makiramdam.
Okay, now for DC, I did Jonah Hex, Black Orchid, Superman, Batman. And for Marvel, I did almost every superhero from Spider-Man to the Incredible Hulk to Thor to his Punisher for Marvel, so on and so on. I guess, almost every superhero from Marvel.
I'm very happy to be in this position. It's a train of highlights because I've worked with the best writers I could ever wish for. Secret Invasion is probably the biggest I've done because it's an event book and everybody knows that an event book is the focal point revolving around it. So that might have been my my career highlight.
My most favorite inking job has got to be Superman Birthright. Kasi Superman is a favorite character of mine, kahit noon pa. And when I was able to work on him finally, parang talagang freak out ako. And I also like the work professionally kasi yung nagawa namin ni Lainil dun sa book na yun, I think was very special.
For US, I think he made almost 24 subtitles. There was Batman, Conan, World's Finest, Smallville, Green Hornet, Ultraman, Swamp Thing, Man-Thing, Hellblazer, Hawkman. What else?
Noong una talagang hindi ako makapaniwala kasi I wasn't really expecting to be drawing the Hulk. So, nung binalita sa akin na nung editor namin na I would be doing Hulk, syempre, parang masaya pero parang nasa likod ng isip parang ano ba to, biro ba to or so yun, mixed emotions pero mostly masaya talaga.
It's a very weird and also surreal feeling. Basically, in my mindset, it's kind of like it's basically almost the same as going around the world, except it's just your art. I remember when my first published book came out in the comic books, I actually invited my college friends along just to show them, hey, I drew this one.
Sinabi ng dad ko, huwag kang maging comic book artist. Mahirap mabuhay. So, when I sent some copies sa parents ko, like, pa, Star Wars artist yung anak niya. But he was very proud. Hindi niya alam kung matutuwa ka ba or malulungkot ka ba. I landed on Iron Man. So I sent them a copy of Iron Man. Like, it's the latest. Like 2007 is the year Iron Man movie was released. Same as my annual Iron Man. So nung nag-release siya, kasabay nung movie, pinadala ko sa dad ko. Hindi natuwa yung dad ko. Sabi ng dad ko, ay hindi masaya kahit Iron Man ka. Kasi tingnan mo yung family name sa harap ng comic book. It's Talibao. It's T-A-L-I-B-A-O. At hindi tayo yan. Yung dad ko yung na-upset ko. Ako sobrang sayo ko. Of course, kahit Talibao pa yan, sino pa yan, ako pa rin nag-drawing yan eh.
Naging part kasi ang comics ng kultura natin for a long time. No? Inintroduce ang comic strips sa Philippines as early as the 1800s.
The first Philippine comics was created by Dr. Jose Rizal in 1884. When he was a student of medicine in Europe, he was asked by Dr. Reinhold Rost, a scholar on Eastern literature, to contribute something on folklore. So Rizal, in response, contributed The Monkey and the Tortoise. That was the very first comics created by a Filipino.
Pero yung ongoing comic strip started around 1929 with Kenkoy. Pero sa magazine lang lumalabas yun.
Kenkoy was created by Antonio S. Velasquez, known as Tony Velasquez, who is considered now as the father of the Tagalog comics. Kenkoy is perhaps the most popular, the most iconic figure of the 1920s and early 1930s. I would say that he is the most popular figure in the Philippines during that time, even more popular than President Quezon, because Kenkoy appeared in the vernacular Liwayway and it was translated into Banawag, Hiligaynon, Bisaya, Bicolnon. Those are magazines that were distributed in various provinces of the Philippines. The major thing that happened afterwards was in 1947 when Tony Velasquez founded Ace Publications. Ace Publications initially published 4 comic books. The first one was Filipino Comics, and then it was followed by Tagalog Classics, and then by Hiwaga Comics, and by Special Comics. There came more comics afterwards, but those 4 are called the 4 pillars of Ace Publications.
So nung nagkaroon ng inroads ang comics sa Philippines on time na yun, naging very popular siya, and it only became even more popular as the decades went on.
Can be traced to the fact na this was the main entertainment fair of the Filipinos then. No? So, I remember that kasi mahilig ako sa comics, and my mom used to bring comics from the Talipapa whenever she goes to market. No?
These are where the major illustrators and story writers emerge. And it's in these comic books that they really started their careers. like Francisco Coching, Nestor P. Redondo, Alfredo Alcala, Tony De Zuniga, Alex Nino.
A lot of those artists were influenced by American illustrators like Alex Raymond, sina Hal Foster, yung mga classic artists. Kung titignan nyo yung mga artwork nila nung araw, may similarity kasi very dramatic and very graceful and very classical ang dating ng mga artworks nila.
Gusto ko talaga si Alex Raymond. I like the way he stretches his figure. Naku, visually, maganda, tama. Actually, sobra taas eh. Pero maganda pa rin.
Some of the themes that emerged during that period of comics was adventure. Of course, Coching was the best in adventure series with his Hagibis, with his El Indio, even westerns, you know. Not really copied per se from American, but, you know, with Filipino flavor.
Well, locally, I was very young then. So, ang idol namin, hindi lang ako, marami kami mga batang. Si Francisco V. Coching. I still think, kahit na ngayon, he's the greatest Filipino comic book illustrator, really. His actions are more believable. His foreshortening of the figure, mahusay talaga mag-drawing.
Hindi mo masasabing they copied American artists because kung mapapansin mo, even during that time, karamihan yan mga superheroes, etc., etc. But when you look, ito yung pagkakaiba ng Pinoy. When you look at the comics of the Filipino, yung mga drama about poverty, about love, about, you know, nandun yun. No? Yung tragedy, yung mga squatter, yung mga dagat. No, these are things you don't really see in American comics. No? So, meron silang parang perception or even vision of what drawing is all about.
One of the things that made them do was put a lot of detail sa kanilang work. A lot of attention to the little things like yung mga minute things sa background, pati yung mga design ng mga damit, yung mga sasakyan, mga bahay. They were very meticulous pagdating sa ganung klaseng detail. Sa opinion ko kasi ang golden age ng comics ng Philippines was from the 1940s to around mga late 1960s. Andyan yung best comic books na lumabas sa atin, best writing and best art. Ang problema started nung late 60s when the Filipinos started going to America. A lot of the factors included yung martial law, basically.
Marcos censored stories that may or may not criticize his regime. Even those stories that he thought or imagined to be anti-Marcos regime, he suppressed.
A lot of artists felt they were being restricted sa kanilang ginagawa. They went to the US, they found work there, and they became very popular.
Nagdo-drawing na ako regular dito, pero sinubukan kong mag-advertising. Kaya ayun, natuloy ako roon. Ayan, nagpunta ako ng New York School of Design, ganun. One day, may nakilala akong overall executive editor ng DC, si pangalan mo, si Joe Orlando. Very nice guy. Pinakita ko yung trabaho ko. Ngayon sabi, this is good. Binigyan nila ako ng script na maybe 8 pages, gano'n. Malaking trabaho na rin yun. Nagustuhan ni Orlando, yun, pisa na yun. Binigyan na ako ng another one. And then, gano'n yan eh. Pag nagtrabaho ka sa DC, nakita ng editor na gano'n yung trabaho mo, magugustuhan ng editor na yun. I-refer ka naman doon sa maraming editors doon eh. Dahil marami sila libro eh.
Si Tony De Zuniga, is one of those creators who was able to create characters and create characters that eventually became very popular. He was able to co-create Jonah Hex, which is, we all know who Jonah Hex is. He was a very popular Western character na nagkaroon ng movies and things like that.
Alam ko na, dahil weird, di kailangan weird yung gagawin kong character, okay? Nag-draw ako marami ko kung ano-ano, dami ng ginawa ko. Pero tuwing every time na binubuo ko, hindi tama, mali. Hindi mo kang bida, hindi mo kang hero. Gusto ko yung parang anti-hero lang na gano'n. Hindi talaga tama, mali. Isang one day, napunta ako sa doctor's office ko. Kita ko yung mga chart nila. Pero puro kalahati yung pakita yung ano. Naisip ko, ilalagay ko lang sa kalahati ito. Kalahati, normal kalahati yung ano. Palagay ko, it's gonna work, sabi ko. Dinala ko sa DC. That's it, sabi ganun. Huwag mo nang baguhin yan, tama yan. Ayun. That's how he was born.
Yung kay Mang Tony is more realistic and more gritty. And I think Americans responded a lot to that kind of style. Hanggang ngayon naman one of the things that impresses me a lot about si Mang Tony is that he gets better with age. Unlike a lot of artists na when they get older, medyo nag-deteriorate ang kanilang art. Pero kay Mang Tony, hindi. He just gets better and better and better. It's just very surprising and very, well, it makes me happy.
Tony Do Zuniga was one of the first Filipino illustrators in the States. He later on created an agency wherein he could introduce more Filipino artists to work for American comics. For our comic illustrators who suddenly found themselves wanting for job because of the decline in the publications of comics and because of the curtailing of these comic magazines, in came American publishers, particularly DC. They were seeking for new recruits to illustrate their comic books. And so they went here probably in 1972 or 73 and they recruited our Filipino illustrators.
Ang problema, they were reissuing what they call reprinted books na lumabas na yon. Marami na nakabasa noon. Nire-reprint nila and then they're selling it. Tinanong ko yung editorial head ngayon, si Joke, ba't yung ginagawa yan kako? Di ba nabasa na yan ng mga tao? Yeah, pero wala kaming budget, sabi niya. The only money we can pay artists is mga $12 to $13, sabi niya. No American artist would touch that kind of rate, sabi, walang gagawa niyan. Totoo, doon, wala. Kino-compute ko, at in those years, 70s, sa $10 lang, mataas pa rin doon sa dati nilang rate dito. Mataas pa rin yun. Kako, merong gagawa niyan. Bago pa yung material nyo, hindi nire-reprint na ganyan. Pupunta kayo ng Pilipinas. Kako, you talk with those artists. Ayun, umpisa na yung gano'n. Hanggang sa tinawag na ako. Oy, sorry, pupunta tayo Manila. Ay, kako, kayo na lang. Pwede naman kayo. Hindi namin alam doon. Baka sako kami makarating sa Africa. Kailangan sumama ka. Sumama ako, ayun. Umpisa na, gano'n.
Kasi naging guest namin sila sa National Press Club Si Infantino and Joe Orlando. And then they spoke very well of Filipino talents. Mga Pilipino, ang gagaling. Hindi nila nalalaman na dito pala sa third world na lugar na ito, meron palang ganong kagagaling.
But hindi ganun kasimple yan sabi nung mga Amerikano. Mahuhusay kayong arte, sabi sa kanila, you draw pretty pictures very well, pero comic book is not all pretty pictures. You have to tell a very good, clear story. Yun ang hindi nila alam. What we can do, sabi nila, si Tony, he can stay behind for a few weeks and then train you on the right way of storytelling.
Dahil a lot of those Filipinos started coming out dun sa mga weird mystery tales, House of Mystery, House of Secrets. Dun naglabasan yung mga Filipinos And they were perfect for those kinds of stories. Yung time na yon, siguro DC was looking for artists na pwedeng mag-fit sa kanilang mystery and horror and crime type of comic books. So nag-fit yung mga Filipinos doon. Kasi nag-fit yung style nila sa ganung klaseng dark fantasy stuff eh.
Working with DC is a lot of things to work, Kasi mag-aano ka eh. You have to do some researches. Kasi kung minsan ang eksena gagawin sa Europe, kailangan alam mo yung mga klase ng buildings or surroundings na pwede mong gawin doon. Samantalang yung ginagawa mo rito locally, alam mo na kung ano itsura ng bahay dito sa atin. Alam mo ang sasakyan na nag-i-exist. So, ang nangyayari, mabilis mo nagagawa yung mga local works mo instead of the DC.
Ang plotting nila sa mga stories, iba sa mga Pilipino. Sa atin, mga drama, which is very predictable ang mga ending, ganun. Although they're trying very hard na may values ang stories ng local ng mga Filipino writers. Pero sa state, I don't know if they care about values, but basta as long as it gives a good ending for the story and it entertains the readers, I think that's their most priority in writing the story.
When the DC people came here from the States to interview or to audition them, Joe Orlando, the editor, interviewed my dad and asked him how many pages he can work a week. My dad said it's 40 pages. Mr. Orlando was hesitant. Maybe there was a miscommunication of maybe language, I don't know. So he showed some samples that he brought along showing works by Neil Adams and explaining to my dad that you have to do something like this. Okay, so my dad said, that changes everything. Mr. Orlando was relieved that finally he's getting through my dad. So how many pages can you work? 80, he said.
Si Alfredo Alcala naman, impressed a lot of editors nung araw dahil he was very, very fast. But at the same time, his work was very, very detailed. No? A lot of editors were surprised he was able to do a lot of those pages in just a short time. He was assigned to more of those kinds of mystery titles, barbarian type of titles, fantasy. And he became very closely associated with Conan. Kasi kahit naman dito sa Philippines, one of his most popular creations is Voltaire, which is a Conan type of character.
Voltaire started in 1963 in the first issue of Alcala Fight Comics. When Voltaire came out, everyone was waiting for the next issue because that's when his style came out great. Every issue, you'll have a spread of Voltaire, which is a panoramic view of his surrounding. You'll have like some sort of a Grand Canyon background, complete with details, everything.
And when he went to the US, and those editors saw his Voltaire, they thought, oh, this guy would be perfect for Conan and these kinds of stories. So he was assigned as an inker for artists like John Buscema. Although John Buscema didn't like his style too much because Alfredo Alcala tended to overpower the pencils, which is what Filipinos would do. Kasi the Filipinos were used to drawing from just layouts and they would draw using their pens. They were trained that way. And this made them perfect as embellishers for American artists. And Alfredo Alcala will do his thing. He will draw on it, basically, and put his style into it. So it's very Alfredo Alcala looking type of things, which a lot of fans appreciated, but not necessarily the penciler.
Thinking about his tremendous amount of work, he was still frustrated because he wanted to show his talents on his layouts, and sometimes he wanted to make some inputs on the character, but then another guy did a pencil. There's nothing left to do but improve on it or just put inks on it. That's how frustrated he was at that time. I think I can say that at that time there were still bias on giving works on the American artist. And since he's a Filipino, that's what he was complaining about because of maybe racial discrimination. But that was just his opinion.
He was a ranter. Actually, I met him in San Diego in 1997, and he would just rant all the time. He would be ranting at the young kids doing comics. And he was quite a character, and he had a lot of opinions.
Actually, my dad, in one way or another, has touched every Filipino's lives. Everyone has seen the logo of the Alaska Milk. All of these drawings went into almost all Filipino households. And for those who grew up in the 80s, there was He-Man, who was really popular. And he did Star Wars for several years. So everyone knew what Star Wars is. It has touched our lives without knowing it. So it's time that we mention who really did it.
Since Filipino illustrators were influenced hugely by American illustrators, they had no problem adjusting to in illustrating American comics also. When Nestor Redondo was hired by DC to create their comic book Swamp Thing, it was apparent that he was drawing in the style of American illustrators.
Nestor Redondo, I think, became very popular when he started working on Darna. And because of that, people started to notice how talented an artist he is. And he quickly became a favorite artist of editors as well. He did a lot of drama, did a lot of horror, those kinds of stories.
You know, when Nestor Redondo was drawing Quo Vadis in 1950, he was already noticed by an American publisher. But he was too young then. I think he was only 18 or 20. The idea of going to America seemed so fantastic to him, so he declined. And little did he know that he would really eventually illustrate for American comics.
The first big impact that Nestor Redondo had on American comics when he was hired to take over Swamp Thing from Bernie Wrightson, which is actually a very tall order because Bernie Wrightson is a very, very popular American artist. Even now, he's very popular. And he did a very memorable run on Swamp Thing. When it was announced that he was leaving Swamp Thing with issue number 10, a lot of the fans really freaked out. Who's good enough to take over Swamp Thing after Bernie Wrightson? And when Nestor Redondo took over, the fans were like, oh, okay, this guy is good also.
The comparison is really inevitable. Who is the better Swamp Thing illustrator? Was it Wrightson or was it Redondo? There's no way that you can really compare the two because both gave Swamp Thing their own best.
He eventually worked on other titles like Rima and a lot of those mystery titles. He eventually worked on the Bible adaptation by DC, which also was very popular. I think what made Nestor Redondo's art very appealing to Americans was his art looked very beautiful and very graceful and very classic. I think they responded well to that. Of all the artists who worked for American comics, Nestor Redondo's art was the most accomplished and most professional looking. Very few of them managed to do superheroes. Kasi yung ganong style, yung dark and hatchy style, medyo hindi bumabagay sa superheroes eh. Kasi nung time na yun, superheroes had a much younger readership. And yung mga younger readers wanted yung mga less dark and more colorful type of art. No? So talagang hindi nag-fit yung mga Filipinos doon. Imagine mo si Nestor Redondo or si Alex Nino would be put into Superman. Hindi mag-fit eh. Kasi alam mo naman ang style ng Superman nung araw, very clean and very light. yung artwork ni Nestor Redondo was very dark and moody. Yun namang artwork ni Alex Nino was really crazy and very impressionistic and wild. No? Hindi ba bagay sa Superman?
Well, Alex Nino was really something. He started in late 1960s as illustrator for Pablo S. Gomez Publications. In particular, his popular series then was the Brujilda series.
Experience ng mga trabaho ni Alex Nino, which is talagang pagkagaling-galing at pagkaganda-ganda. Pero hindi na-appreciate ng Filipino community dito sa atin. Hindi siya napagbigyan ng maraming trabaho. Pero nung gumawa siya sa DC, iba pang magazine sa Amerika, nagustuhan yung kanyang estilo.
Meron nga akong nabasa na anecdote sa isang book na nabasa ko about Alex Nino and editor Mars Rabido. She was supposed to draw a certain kind of parang commandos doing something, you know. Ito sa series. And halfway through the series, naging unano yung mga sundalo. And nag-freak out si Mars Rabido. Hindi naman ganyan yung story ko. Gusto kong gawin eh. Sabi niya. So, na-fired siya ron. His art was different from those other artists like si Nestor Redondo, who drew very gracefully, very dramatically, very classical. Pero si Alex Nino was really crazy. Talagang freak out yung kanyang mga drawing, very exaggerated. Because of that, he was very, very popular sa US. I think he's the most popular Filipino artist in time na yun.
Well, the arrangement is more or less the same as today, wherein Tony De Zuniga's agency would collect something from the salaries of the illustrators in exchange for his agency giving them jobs. Generally, they were satisfied, but of course, there were those who were not contented, you know, because they believe that they were being milked, that they get less pay than what they really work for.
As long as mas mataas ang bayad sa amin compared to local, hindi kami nag-complain. Pero later, na-realize namin na sa state, mababa yun compared to other artists na mas magaling pa nga yung gawa ng mga Pilipino kaysa doon sa mga American artists na iba ron, ano?
They will not complain na kaharap ka. Susulat yun doon. Bakit sinila Adams? Ganon eh. Kasing husay ko yun eh. Ganyan eh. Ganyan na nangyayari. Anong sasabihin sa kanila ng mga tao ron? Hindi nakikibo. Mahirap. Mapakahirap. Yung greed, ano yan eh. Masama yan eh. Hindi dapat na ano yan eh.
Sa akin, when you look at the bottom line of all of these things, parang there's nothing to complain about. Kasi, like kunwari, yung mga napunta doon, they really earn more than, you know, their counterpart here. Tsaka hindi, kung pumayag ka naman sa kondisyon, nandun, no? It's like that. It's a negotiation. It's a business. It's an arrangement. And kung beforehand, pumayag ka doon sa bayad na yon, I don't think there's any reason for you to complain later on that you were underpaid, because you clearly knew what you were going to be paid for.
You know, you get tired of the same bull na magsusulatan. Gumulo eh. Gumulo. Hindi na yung basta arrangement na, oh, ito, trabaho. Pinagbutihan ko, binigyan ka ng increase. Iba yun eh. Hindi naman gano'n na nangyayari. Guguluhin nila. Bakit si ganon? Makukusumi ka kung ikaw, if you were in my shoes, makukusumi ka. Kaya sabi ko, it's not gonna work out. Cancelahin na natin itong contract natin. Di balik ako. I know, nagpagod lang ako, pero di balik. That's it. Kaya nung nag-dissolve na yung kontratang yun, wala na rin ako contract sa DC. Eh, tagal na akong nililigawan ng Marvel Comics. Alam mo, dalawa lang naman yan eh, Marvel and DC. Pag nagtrabaho ka na sa DC ng 1 year, inaano ka na, alam na nila agad kung sino yung mga up-and-coming kon sa gano'n. Or if you start at the other side, sila DC naman ganun din. Gusto kunin ka rin, ganun. Kaya nagpunta ako sa Marvel.
In the 80s, a lot of those mystery titles were canceled. And Filipinos were left with very few venues in which they show their art. So a lot of the artists transitioned into inking. Like Romeo Tanghal became very popular as the inker of Teen Titans over George Perez. And Alfredo Alcala became very popular as the inker of Swamp Thing over various artists. He was even able to work with Alan Moore on those classic Swamp Thing stories. Guys like Del Barras was able to work on a lot of Marvel titles. Even Jerry Talaok also was able to work for.
The only problem that I had at that time, yung X-Men, tinanong ko, ang daming characters niyan eh. Are you paying the same rate as you're paying me per page? Yeah. Yun daw rate talaga per page. Ayoko na kako, I won't do it next time. Ang dami-dami niyan, sasaksak ko sa isang page yan. Tapos, dapat may adjustment kayo ng rates. Mas mahal pagka X-Men ang gagawin nyo. Daming karakter eh. Kaya siya lang ginawa ko nun. Ayoko na.
Meron mga pa-isa-isang artist na sumusulpot like sina Rafael Cayanan, who was drawing stuff for Marvel. And guys like Will Sportacio started inking for Marvel also. And I think Will Sportacio was really considered as the start of a new wave of a Filipino artist. I think he began it. I started seeing Will's work around the middle 80s sa mga Marvel titles kasi kinokolekta ko X-Men and New Mutants. I was very impressed dun sa inking niya kasi very detailed. And I started seeing more of his work, and later on, I saw he started penciling. Noong time nung ginagawa niya ang Punisher, hindi ko pa din alam na Filipino siya. And then he started working on X Factor. No? Doon talaga nag-take off si Wills. Kasi his art was very dynamic, no? Very bombastic, and very detailed.
It's hard to describe because it's, you know how taste is. You don't analyze it, you just like it. It's sort of realistic, and I like, how he draws muscles, anatomy. It's a bit gritty, it's quite dynamic. To me, it looks high impact and it's beautiful to look at.
Structure niya kasi very, very powerful. Yung shots niya rin powerful, hindi nagsasayang. Although you can see na parang merong cuts, no? hindi ordinary cuts like old comics, pero kasama na yun sa style niya. And yung pencils niya kasi parang precise na pag nakabuo na yung lapis. Parang angat na angat yung art style niya. Very distinct. Hindi mo mako-compare sa ibang artist.
I think Wills was part of a wave of artists who became very popular in the late 80s and early 90s, which included sina Liefeld, sina Todd McFarlane, sina Jim Lee. Kanilang movement na yun was very significant because it made the look of comics very exciting. Some time na yun, they had a huge impact. They had a huge effect on not only comics but a lot of the artists.
And yung time ng mga 95 to 96, nag-decide si Wills na susubukan niya tumanirahan sa Pilipinas. Nung pumunta nga siya, tapos nakita lahat ng mga artists. And it's like, nakakatuwa. It's a long line of creators.
And that's when he established Starfire Studios. And at the time, again, the intent was to find local talent that would do work for stuff that would be published abroad. So the grand plan there was to actually establish a complete art team over here. And it was through Starfire that he had eventually found Daniel Yu. Of course, Jerry had been in correspondence with him, Gilbert Monsanto, Edgar Tadeo, and yes, Jay Anacleto was the initial group of Starfire.
I submitted my work, and I was before meeting him, I was emulating him. I was trying to draw exactly like him, but of course I wasn't successful. With Jerry Alangilan's prodding, he eventually gave me a chance.
Actually, kinulit ko pa si Wills na kunin si Raynil. Kasi noong time na yun, si Raynil, his art was very closely resembling yung kay Wills. Parang si Iron Wills noon, na parang ginagaya yung style niya. Pero ako, I could see the potential yung sa gawa ni Raynil, and I kept putting his portfolio sa harap ni Wills, and Wills was always, wala na ba iba? Wala na ba iba? Ganun. And after a while, no, siguro, disappoint si Wills, wala siya makitang ibang artist. Sige na, subukan natin si Raynil, let's call him in. And pinag-try out siya, natuwa naman si Wills sa ginawa ni Raynil. And then yun, na-form yung first group namin.
Ang maganda nun sa, pag nasa studio, minsan nangyari sa amin na biglang yung script darating, tapos sabi, 2 weeks! 2 weeks! Tapos ang mangyayari niyan, the drawing ng isa, ako magli-layout, tapos i-drawing, ipe-pencil ng iba, may mag-i-ink, tapos ipapasa sa akin, ako gagawa ng blocks, yun ang... And then, wala pang 2 weeks, tapos it's like, it's fun, pero parang magugulat ka na dahil nga nandyan sila, nagkakasama kayo, tutulungan.
So they were doing Stone, which was, I think, the very first American comic book to star a Filipino and to feature creatures from Filipino folklore. And they were also doing Iron Man Heroes Reborn at that time. And during that time was when he was training the rest of the guys. And Leniel and Edgar and Jerry then got their big break doing Wolverine. It came to a point when Wills needed to go back to the States. By that time, Leniel Yu and Jerry and Edgar were already getting constant assignments from Marvel. So they were like the team supreme at the time. The artists were doing well because they were getting assignments on their own.
It was really part luck too, because I mean, it's they wanted a new artist for Wolverine. I sent samples, and so Wills took my work to San Diego and showed it to Marvel, and then they gave me a sample script, and I got the job after that. So it was really it was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, this new generation, beginning with Wills Portacio, Leniel Yu, Harvey Tolibao, Wilson Tortosa, these are some of our best talents in comics right now. I would say that more or less they were not influenced by the very first Filipino illustrators to have worked in the States.
When we started, guys like, of course, Leniel and Jerry and Gilbert, majority of the artists were heavily influenced by their comic book idols. We would generally say that's an Image style, or that's a Jim Lee style, or that's a Will style, or that's a Rob Liefeld style. The editors were looking for that. They knew that was the big hit for the kids. If you could draw people with big shoulder pads and big guns and put speed lines in the back, then editors would pick you up, for better or for worse. That's what happened to the comic book industry at the time.
We were very influenced by the American comic books during the 90s. I was lucky to be emulating, the Image guys. That's why I have this job. Like if I were doing manga, or if I were drawing like the old masters before, they're great. They're better than us. But at the same time, we're not going to be doing X-Men with proper anatomy, with the nice layout they have. They have to have bigger muscles and over-the-top action sequences.
Let's face it, if you actually started to draw using the style back then, it will be immediately labeled as retro. That itself is not a bad thing, but you'll get very few chances of getting any work. What's important is that you'll be flexible. In this generation are more flexible. That's why they get more chances to get jobs. That means they get more chance to be exposed to the worldwide market. after those initial wave of artists back in the 70s and 80s, it's kind of hard to point out one unifying detail or aspect of all the styles that current artists use nowadays. So that's why there's an issue now, what's the Filipino style of sorts?
Ang problema kasi, yung influences ng masyado ng varied eh. Sa amin ni Neil, siguro yung influence namin ay nag-originate kay Whilce Portacio. So, yung iba sa amin, nag-merge na lang from Whilce Portacio to Neil. Hindi katulad nung time noong 70s, yung style set nila, mostly kay Francisco Coching.
What's different kasi sa generation before, like yung generation na Nestor Redondo and Alfredo Alcala, they had a very small community of artists and they fed off each other. Wala parang internet dun eh. Sila lang influencing themselves. So in a way, nagkaroon naggagayahan sila ng style. At dahil doon, nagkaroon sila ng parang uniform look. Kasi they were feeding off each other.
If you really need to zero in, I guess it's the level of detail. Most artists right now don't scrimp on details. Not only details, but attention to storytelling, expressiveness.
Up until now, yeah, I still look sa mga gawa nila. For example, cities. Titingnan ko paano dinrawing nila Redondo, nila Alex Nino, nila Alcala, yung cities. Tapos parang ganun din gawin ko. Detailed, ando pa rin yung Filipino style.
Para sa akin, kinabol ko na nandun pa rin yung traditional. Like I draw the roots ng mga puno is the way the old artists will draw. Like makikita mo talaga yung detail kahit sinasabi na ng editor. Nalilate ka dahil sa ganyan mo. Kahit kotse, yung gulong, gusto mo makita pa yung the smallest detail. Kasi gusto kong ma-retain pa rin nandun pa rin yung Filipino.
Ang hindi maaalis. Ang hair. Filipinos, magagawa sila ng hair. It's really hair. It's like the commercial. Actually gagawa tayo ng mga pilik mata, yung lips, gagawin natin yung lips, gagawin natin yung There are things na hindi natin maalis. Na parang tayo, romantic pa rin tayo. Pag ginawa natin isang bagay, parang may passion. Parang, kailangan magpaganda, kailangan gano'n.
Because of the dedication and hard work that Filipinos bring in. They're very easy to talk to, even up close and personal. They're very friendly. So I'm guessing that the artists and the editors, they like talking to the Filipinos. Plus the Filipinos really give quality work. I was fortunate enough to talk to Mark Wade in San Diego, and we were talking to him, and he really admires the Pinoys. The Americans, the Western people, they love the Pinoys. They love the art. They're ecstatic when they meet those people.
The Filipino artists, when they come to us, they come as fully formed artists. They're not just good storytellers. They all have unique styles. They're not copying from other artists. They've learned how to take the blend of influences and create a style all their own. And they're so good with deadlines and communication and being respectful of the job that they never let you down.
As far as I know, of course, the ones who are still around right now are, of course, the ones who were capable of meeting the deadline. The ones who were reliable enough for the editors to know that if they gave you the script, they know that they would get it on time. These are the guys with staying power.
If you're good enough, you'll definitely get noticed and you'll get hired. And now, like, for example, the internet, you could talk to your favorite artists and ask for advice, and before that was unheard of.
You can easily be discovered if you just post your art in DeviantArt, and then our artists here in the Philippines are really approachable. If you want to ask them for advice how to break in, they would readily help you. So it's easier now.
A lot of artists that you meet in different countries, they achieve success in the Western comic book industry, and they're worried about the people who are going to come up and take their jobs. They want kind of new artists to fail, so they'll constantly not have rivals to compete with for their position. And the Filipino comic community is not like that at all. they achieve success, and the first thing they do is they turn around and they want to mentor the younger generation. They want to train new artists. They want to give back to the community.
As an artist, ang gusto ko lang talaga is makilala tayong Pilipino sa international scene. Kasi sabi ko nga palagi sa iba na kapag ikaw naging artist sa international, ang dinadala mo hindi lang sarili mo yung buong Pilipinas.
Ngayon kasi, since I've been working in the industry for such a long time, alam ko na at least the protocol of how to break into comics. Unang-una, don't aspire to draw Spider-Man agad. Gusto mo ba na ang unang assignment mo is for Marvel agad and Spider-Man agad? And then, saka ka pala makakapa kung paano gawin ng comics. At saka ka matututo kung paano gawin ng comics. Hindi mo matatapos yung work, hindi mo kakayanin ng deadline, and you will leave a bad impression. It is much better if you start on a small scale, work for independent companies muna, kung saan you will learn how to draw comics. No? Or, kung kaya mo, create your own comic book and keep on creating your own comics.
I think it will continue kasi I regularly visit mga art sites, and sa mga nakikita ko ang daming pagdating ng araw sigurado magkakapangalan to mga to.
I'm seeing a lot of young artists who are very talented and who are taking art to a whole new level. I'm not just saying this, kasi I'm seeing yung art talaga, I'm very impressed. A lot of those artists are doing really incredible work. Hindi lang basta pumapantay sa ibang artists abroad Nilalampasan nila Talagang very, very spectacular kind of art. And because of this, I think tuloy-tuloy pa lang talaga ang mga Filipino sa comics.
I feel impressed by the younger generation. Natutuwa ako sa kanila. Kasi once when I was asked if the comics industry is dead, nag-disagree ako. Hindi totoo yan. In the hearts of this younger generation, buhay na buhay sa kanila. Nakikita mo sa comics convention, andyan sila. Buhay na buhay. Bakit? Nasa puso nila yung comics Yan ang mahirap mamatay.
That really makes me happy, to be honest, knowing my own people are, they're being successful doing this, doing that. I think, that's quite an accomplishment, Although I may say, maybe I started all this, but still, I'm very happy to know that they're doing okay.